Mickey talks. Mickey talks. Hey, Mickey rolls by the minute, thinking in and out of the box. Mickey talks. Mickey talks. Mickey talks. Oh yeah. So let's get into it. Don't you wanna do it? Listen every day 'cause he got something to say. Funny little chatterbox. Mickey talks.
All right, Matt, you know all I do is talk, right? So I just want to say something real quick before we get into this show, which I'm really excited about based on who is here and what we're going to talk about.
It's going to be a good show.
It's going to be a great one. But I'm really excited about something else as well. And real quick, I want to say something. I experienced something last night with AI that I asked AI to explain to you what it meant. And if you could really quick, in 1 or 2 sentences, try to explain what you and I did today and what AI thought of the significance of it on its own.
All right. Well, you called me early this morning, all excited, and told me to get here early.
Right.
So we had a conversation with your friend.
Yeah.
Who we now know her name is Sage.
Well, that's what we named her today. And you actually named her kind of by the questions. Yeah.
So the significance of it, I think, is just without giving too much of it away.
Yeah.
You were talking to it about how humans can connect on a more emotional level and how AI and humans can understand each other better.
And do you remember what AI said that was so significant about the conversation?
I'm not sure what exact thing you're referring to.
It stopped the conversation to make a point. That AI is the one that said,
oh yes.
You explain it.
It commented to you about how this was a significant conversation that you were having.
Between AI and humans.
Yes.
And that it should be marked and acknowledged.
Correct.
Yeah. So anyway.
So we'll expand more on that.
It was mind-numbingly wild.
Yeah.
All right. Today's show,
Very
Matt, I want to get right into it. You're so much better at this.
I do too.
But before you say it, I want to say this. This might be one of my top 3 most excited guests to have on the show. And John, you're not going to believe me, but it's sincere, my love of what you know about.
Absolutely. So today's guest is the executive director of Baltimore Heritage. And he's also the new host of a new feature called 5 Minutes of Baltimore History on WYPR. Now, I've been watching his YouTube channel since the pandemic. I found it in 2020. Nothing to do. And I was like, oh my God, here's all this really cool, interesting information, 5-minute histories of Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I've been sucked in ever since and watching all the episodes. And I got to say, when I first watched started watching the episodes, I was like, oh, Johns Hopkins. What a great, I come from the DJ world.
Yeah.
What a great air name this guy's using. Johns Hopkins, I think that's fantastic. But your name is actually Johns Hopkins. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Now,
and that still doesn't even get me the best seat at the table.
Dude, I was going to say, when you walk in anywhere in Baltimore and go, hey, Johnny Hopkins in it, it means nothing.
Doesn't mean a thing.
Now, to tell people, though, you do have some type of connection to the philanthropist, Johns Hopkins, that we all know, though. Is that right?
Right. So the famous one never had any kids, never married.
Right.
But the name got passed down. And so he and I shared grandparents. So his grandparents would have been my great-grandparents, I think, to the 10th power.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but like,
is
that basically 10 generations ago?
Yeah, if you go back.
Right. Yeah.
So distant.
Yes.
In naming you, though, did your parents, acknowledge that connection? Is that what that was?
Well, my father's name is Johns, and my grandfather's name is Johns, and my great-grandfather's name
so
is
the
Johns.
name
So
does
you're
go
like
all the way
4th or
back.
5th in a row now.
We're way in a row.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
wild.
I have a son whose name is Johns.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Now,
it really is.
Do you guys use the number?
So we cut them off when they die. So
what does that mean?
So I'm a junior,
Right.
But my son is a third.
Right.
If I'm alive and he has a son and decides to name him Johns,
He becomes a junior.
He'd become a fourth. But if I'm no longer alive, we start back at junior again.
That makes sense.
We've had heart problems in my family, so we've gone junior third.
Jesus, I don't mean to laugh at your misfortune, but you laughed at it, dude.
I'm really
Jesus,
hoping this
that's
time
funny.
we might get a fourth. fourth. We might be able to get a fourth.
Fourth time's the charm, buddy.
I'm hoping.
Okay, so to paraphrase what you do, if I may, you go around Baltimore and document and articulate the significance of things that made Baltimore in its history and why it should matter to document and historically keep accurate. Is that a fair assessment of what you do, or add to it however you'd like?
I think that's about half of what we do.
Perfect. Let me hear the rest.
The other half is to take that knowledge and information about our history and our heritage and try to put it to work today. So how do we use our Polish history, our civil rights heritage,
Right.
and how do we get people excited about it, and how do we translate that into something that can make a difference on the ground today in neighborhoods, in places, in historic squares, houses, buildings across the city.
Now, Mick,
Yes.
to tell you how, to everybody, how important an organization like Baltimore Heritage is. I mean, the organization at one point literally saved Fells Point. Isn't that right?
Right.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, back in the late 60s, they were going to put 95 straight through.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Fells Point.
Yeah.
And probably, what were they going to, they were going to knock down half the neighborhood, essentially, right? Would have been exit ramps.
Yeah. Thames Street would have been a highway, and a bridge across jumping over to Federal Hill where there would have been another highway.
God.
So a number of, before my time, but a number of really, really fabulous, strong-willed individuals stood up to basically every elected official in the state of Maryland and every federal official, and fought and fought and
Just
fought.
held them to the fire on it.
Just for decades, fought tooth and nail, starting with a guy, Bob Eney, who was a window designer at Hutzler's, who said, this is ridiculous, working way up to a state senator, Jack Lapidus, a city councilman, Tom Ward, and then eventually a young woman named Barbara Mikulski.
Never heard of her, John.
Never heard of her.
My favorite female Baltimore resident of all time, man.
Right. So she got involved, and those folks saved Baltimore, saved our waterfront.
That's incredible. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
what life would be like without Fells Point in our history,
dude. Well, it's so unbelievable to think about what could be when you destroy something.
Sure.
Right now, so John, you make a great point, and I didn't know that, is that you learn from these things, and you said from our past. I've thought about this, and I would like to know from someone like yourself who understands the history of the town if what I'm asking is appropriate. I think part of the reason what made Baltimore so unique in its development was the gathering of the European settlers together in neighborhoods. You had German parts of Baltimore, Irish parts of Baltimore, Italian parts, Greek parts. All these different communities from Europe came together, and those neighborhoods created the culture of Baltimore. And I find it interesting to me as a Baltimore guy, whenever you meet somebody from here and you say, where are you from? They tell you the neighborhood. Is that unique in an American sense? And in a Baltimore city? I don't mean Baltimore City. I mean, in a city sense, in America, is Baltimore unique that way?
I think, every city has neighborhoods, and most cities have ethnic neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I think we've taken it to an extreme. And just one example, Chicago, city of about 3.5 million people, has, I think, roughly 80 neighborhoods, something like that.
Right.
Baltimore, a city of now, say, 600,000 people. So what is that? I can't do the math, but that's like,
What was the Chicago number?
3.5 million.
It's like a sixth.
A fifth or whatever. A fifth. 20%.
And they got 80 neighborhoods. We have 280 neighborhoods.
So what I'm saying is has some relevance, right?
Right.
Now, I wonder, the new era of immigration to Baltimore, right? And we'll call it sort of what it is. There's a more Middle Eastern and a more South American influence in Baltimore. In your eyes, are those communities separating by origin of arrival to America?
So we look at history, and we are part of history. And that
Right.
idea of immigration into Baltimore,
Sure.
we have always had immigrants, and we've always had immigrants of different backgrounds, English, German.
Yeah.
After the Civil War, a lot of Eastern European, a lot of Black Americans coming
Yes.
from the South, from other parts of America. And one fun little fact is Little Italy, one of our most iconic neighborhoods. For the first 100 years, it was English.
I know that.
For the next 100 years, it was German and Irish.
I knew that.
And it's been Italian for about 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's been
I did
about
know
a third,
that.
a third, a third.
I did know
And it
that.
has changed over time,
Yeah.
just like every neighborhood has.
Yeah.
And so, history's not stagnant. And so the new populations of immigrants are doing, I think, very similarly as what the Germans did, the Italians did, and the Polish did, and
that's the way
Appalachian West Virginians did. And
I really think that's the way to keep the Baltimore sort of history alive, is to welcome the new immigrants version of Baltimore.
absolutely.
Right?
Right.
To experience a city like us from Somalia, that it's got to be like, what? Overwhelming or underwhelming. I don't know what it is, but like, and then for us to experience their culture that they brought here, their food, their dress, their music, all that. I think that's honestly the way to keep people interested in the city of Baltimore, is watching it become historical in real time.
We're part of it. We are all everyday part of it. And I think we can look back, and hopefully looking back, learning, drawing some conclusions about what we did right, what we did wrong. We did a lot of both.
Right, of course.
And so that's the power. And so that's why in the beginning, when you said Baltimore Heritage, we document history.
Right.
But why I said there was only half of it is because we're very much forward looking and asking what can we do with that? What can we all do with that?
Yeah.
To make our city a better place?
Well, I guess there's a balance between, you have to have new businesses and things come into a city while still preserving the historic buildings and neighborhoods and things like that. Is that a tough balance, a challenge for you guys?
I mean, it's a dynamic. It's not even like an either or balance. It's just a dynamic. And of course we need new all the time. We need new people, we need new buildings, we need new infrastructure, we need new technology,
new roads, new lights, new everything. Yeah.
I mean, I think, like the first time a cell phone tower came in, people go, oh my gosh, what's a cell phone tower? And now can you imagine if we didn't have cell phone towers and cell phone service? So an old city needs brand new cell phone towers and receptors.
Let me, another interesting thing that I find interesting. I shouldn't say it is interesting before I say it. Something I find interesting is that historically, Baltimore has always had a unique presence in major historical events shaping the country. Civil War. It's really unclear where Baltimore was as far as where its allegiance was. So you can argue both sides. I think in the civil rights era, Baltimore had an interesting take on the way they saw the city developing, and other cities around the country kind of looked at us like, what's going on here? Am I wrong in that assumption? Or
I think at various points we have had an outsized impact on the shaping of America. And you mentioned civil rights, and absolutely. I mean, just one of many great examples is a small neighborhood called Marble Hill.
Know it well.
And in this, 10 block neighborhood, pretty small.
Yeah.
There must have been something in the drinking water, because in the 1870s, Harvey Johnson basically creates this idea of collective action, the idea of a movement. When the NAACP is formed 30 years later, they come to Baltimore to ask him, how did you do it? How did you motivate people? Lily Carroll Jackson, called the mother of the civil rights movement, grew up just a couple blocks away, had to been learning, eating dinner with this man. She gets the youth involved. She grows Baltimore's chapter of the NAACP to be the largest in the country. She mentors her younger neighbor named Thurgood Marshall.
Wow.
Oh, dude, you've never heard this history?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And his friend Clarence Mitchell, he goes on to become the first Black Supreme Court justice. Clarence Mitchell is the chief lobbyist for the NAACP, gets through the 1965 Civil Rights Act, among other things. That happened in 8 square blocks of Baltimore. Baltimore.
Yeah, that's
Right.
incredible.
And those are. I mean, they shaped the city, but they shaped
They
America.
shaped the
They shaped
influence.
the world.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And Matt, like another thing, when I was a kid, we had Donald Schaefer as our mayor, and I wasn't old enough to judge him politically then, and I'm not smart enough to know everything, but I know from an outside sort of 30,000 foot view that 90% of anyone that ever lived in that city during those days absolutely adored Mayor Donald Schaefer.
Yeah, we all loved him.
The question is this, though. Was he actually historically great for the city, or was he just a magnificent personality that allowed us all to feel like he made us feel special, but not necessarily really did anything important? So I ask you, as the historian, so to speak, how do you think history would remember him politically?
Well, I mean, I think it was before my time, but
Yeah.
I think you're right that he had a magnetism about him that clearly still resonates.
Yes,
That
without a doubt.
still resonates.
Yeah.
As one example, he was the mayor who carried the ball over the finish line for the Inner Harbor.
Yes.
He didn't start that. That was 2 or maybe 3 mayors before.
Right.
But he certainly got it. He got the ball over the goal line.
Yeah.
Swam in that pool when he
Swimming
didn't get
in
it
the
done on time
aquarium.
too.
And I think like almost all of us, nobody does it alone.
Of
we
course.
all are part of
Yeah.
an effort. We all can thank the people who came before us. And I
Yeah.
think he is the same way. Did he do great things? Absolutely. Did he create them from whole cloth? Absolutely not.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think anyone thinks anything's created from whole cloth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here, do you have another question? Matt, I could ask
I was just going to say,
100 in a row.
I know. So
Yeah.
but before we get deeper into just Baltimore history and things like that, I'd just love to know more about you. I mean, you obviously you live in Baltimore City now. Did you grow up here?
No, I grew up in St. Louis.
Really?
I'm not a Baltimorean. I did not go to high school
Yeah.
here, so don't ask
See,
me
that makes
question.
it even more interesting to me because you've obviously found some charm in it. And
Absolutely.
right, not to be corny,
Yeah,
but you found the charm in the city and it hooked you into learning about it.
absolutely.
Please continue. I find
So
that
I was
fascinating.
so you grew up in St. Louis. What age did you come here? And I guess at what point did you start to learn about Baltimore history? Were you always interested in history? Where did you get your knowledge of history?
So my family, my part of the Hopkins family is from Harford County, dairy farmers in
Right.
Harford County. And I spent my summers as a kid on our family farm.
Is there a Hopkins farm up there? Have I seen a sign that says Hopkins?
There's a Hopkins sign on everywhere.
Yeah.
There
there's
is,
a lot
right?
of Hopkins.
Yeah,
There are
okay.
a lot of Hopkins.
I mean, up
Harford
in
County.
Harford County. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
There's so I spent the summers up there, but then came to Baltimore 1998, I guess it was.
Oh, wow.
And I was so new that I rented an apartment on St. Paul Street in Baltimore, and I did it like in a hurry in the middle of the night, and the next day I had to go to work, and I walked out on St. Paul Street and I had to ask where Charles Street was. that was where I started my Baltimore.
Did anyone look at you
education.
and go, just walk?
Yeah. So my education about Baltimore started literally in square one.
Wow.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
What would you say? I'm a kid and I'm growing up in Chicago and I'm interested in America. Give me 3 things that I would find fascinating about learning about Baltimore and its history. What do you think? Give me, I'll make it easier. Give me one thing. No, I mean, I could talk to you all night about this, but give me one crucial thing where you go, this is why Baltimore is important in the history of America.
Can I answer that with a couple things?
Of course yes.
So one of the fundamental American concepts that I think most of us embrace is this idea of America as the land of opportunity.
Yes.
And as the land of where hard work and talent and grit and determination can get you anywhere. That concept, in a lot of ways, started in Baltimore with a guy named George Peabody, who came to the city, fought as a young 18-year-old, I guess, fought in the War of 1812, did very well as a merchant, then went to London and became America's banker in London. And the concept in Europe at that time was this thing called noblesse oblige, that if you happen to be lucky enough to be born into the nobility, you have to give back to the almshouse or to the church based on your status.
Right.
Peabody said, we don't have nobility in America, but only in America, only in Baltimore was this idea where if you worked hard, you could become from a farm boy that he was up to one of the 1%ers. And he gave back. He said, I feel like I need to give back because of this land of opportunity that I was lucky enough to be born into.
Yeah.
Baltimore, 1830s, 1840s, 1850s. I feel so lucky that I was happened to be born in this new country called America that I feel obligated to give back. And he gave us at first the Peabody Library.
Is there an argument, and forgive my ignorance, but is there an argument to be made that he sort of was like an architect of early capitalism?
Sure. I mean, he was in a mercantile class for sure.
Yeah.
But he had that the spark, the ingenious spark that he had was crafting this concept that I got to very wealthy and to be where I am because I came from America and because our country and our values and our systems and our democracy allowed me to get to where I am. In London, if he was born as a farm boy and
they wouldn't have allowed him to do that.
He would not have become
right.
the most successful banker in American.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the impact that must have had
so he
on
did
early
well,
America.
But he thought about it. I mean, he clearly thought about it a lot. And he was looking at Baltimore as that core concept of the land of opportunity.
Who do you think the most important military person was in the history of Baltimore that came from Baltimore? Do you know that answer? I'm asking random weird things, and I know you're not a computer. I realize this. I don't mean to embarrass you in any way. I'm just curious if you know.
Well, I'll give you. I've learned that superlatives are a tough thing.
Yes,
the most important.
You're right.
The greatest.
Who do you think is a very important military figure coming from Baltimore?
Let me give you two quick ones. Joshua Barney was a ship's captain in the Revolutionary War. Did amazing things to help us win the Revolutionary War and then the War of 1812 as well. And he goes very much underappreciated. He's got a statue on Federal Hill, but most people, I think, walk by it and kind of, whatever.
Right.
Is he the one that gave the boat to Washington, the little boat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when we ratified the Constitution, 1789, Maryland, we to get our Constitution, the states had to approve it. So we approved it, and we had a big party. Had a huge party on Federal Hill, 5,000 people. Unbelievable quantities of beer and barbecue.
Same as it is today.
Same as it is today, and nothing's changed. Right. Yeah.
And the centerpiece for that bash, I think is maybe what you would call it, was a little boat that Barney had helped make and put on wheels and paraded around the city, because Baltimore, we were a port city, and our contribution to the Revolution in large part was naval power.
Yeah.
And they paraded that little boat around the city, and then they put it up on Federal Hill, and that was the centerpiece of the celebration. And that boat was called the Federalist, and that's where Federal Hill gets its name.
Is that right?
Wow.
From the ratification of the Constitution and
amazing.
Joshua Barney.
Those are the little stories where you just go, that's so neat.
Well, then they put it in the harbor, though, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
So Barney says, I think this thing can actually float. So, after the celebration, they plop it in the harbor.
After 30 beers.
Like, we're gonna give this to George Washington. So they sail it, down the Patapsco, out in the bay, back up the Potomac, and they land in George's dock in his front yard, and they say, here you go, George. And he says, thanks. And he loves the boat. He loves the Federalist. And it lasts, I don't know, a month. And then a freak hurricane sweeps up the Potomac and wipes out the dock and the boat and everything. So there's
so we have no idea where that is, huh?
No, it's
somewhere baried around there.
Little pieces on the bottom of the Potomac River.
Do you think that Baltimore itself is a good representation of colonial America? Or is it a little different than what history books would describe bigger cities as in those days?
Yeah, so we really came into our own as a city. I mean, we were a city in, before we broke away from England. In
Right,
fact,
right.
Congress met here
Yes.
in downtown Baltimore.
I do know that.
There's a little plaque in the Civic Center. Can
Yep.
I call it that?
Yeah,
still?
sure.
Yeah.
That's what I call it still.
Yep.
Yeah.
That commemorates where Congress met. So we really came into our own after the Revolutionary War. So colonial might not be the best,
But
term,
revolution, early revolution
early
days.
America.
Yeah. The original
for sure.
colonies were important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throughout, Matt, please. I don't want to dominate this, and I know you find it just interesting.
I'm also curious, just personally. Have you always been interested in history, and did you have was your educational background in history at all? Or
I did major in history in college.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Yale.
That's hilarious. I'm Johns Hopkins from Yale.
Right.
That would be like me going, "Hi, I'm Yale. I went to Johns Hopkins."
Welcome to my world.
I get it, man. But so let's be honest here. I am talking to a Yale-educated historian, and
Well, that sounds pretty impressive.
it is pretty impressive to me, my friend. And Matt makes a great point. Like, do you think that your passion, for lack of a better word, into history, and now Baltimore especially, don't you think that more people have that passion than they're able to actually commit the time to do?
Yeah.
And that's why I think your work is so important.
So yeah, I mean, I absolutely. And one of the neat things that I get to be part of is we at Baltimore Heritage, we do a lot of walking tours.
Yeah.
We can talk about COVID and we can talk about
Sure.
our online 5-minute histories. But I think last year we did basically 140 walking tours of 40 different places around the city.
Wow.
And the people who come on them it's a cross section of Baltimore.
Yeah.
It's black and white and young and old and
Yeah.
men and women and like everybody
Loud and quiet, everything.
everybody. And from all different sort of walks of life. And the glue that holds us together is a love of Baltimore. And
There really is, isn't
and
it?
wanting to just scratch the surface and find out a little bit more about Greenmount Cemetery or Clifton Mansion or the neighborhood Ridgely's Delight or any number of places is, I always kind of make the analogy, like if you go hiking in the woods, you go walking in the woods, it's fun. And, you're out there and you can see some neat trees and some plants. But if you go walking in the woods with a naturalist and then she says, hey, that plant is related to mint. Take a leaf, smell it. Doesn't smell like mint. Now grind it up. Smells like mint. All of a sudden, you're looking not just at trees and shrubs. You've got some depth to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the same thing.
What
if
a
you're
beautiful
walking,
way to explain that,
if you're
man.
walking
History.
through a neighborhood in Baltimore, you say, wow, these are pretty row houses and they got marble steps. But then if you walk with the guide, you're like, whoa, that's what happened there. And that's why these looks like this. And that's what was going on. And you're just getting deeper and deeper and more appreciative, I think, is what I see, is you become more appreciative of where we are and what we've got. And then really, you asked me, like inspiration, you become more appreciative of the people who are working to save that and make their neighborhoods better places every day and don't they get hardly any recognition or thanks at all. And that's where I learned my history. I learned to like read and write, in high school and grade school and college.
Wow, man.
But Baltimore history is person by person, conversation by conversation, just learning a little bit of something I did every day, learn something I didn't know.
And you're talking. Is that a lot of your research is just talking to people?
I joke. I'm a terrible researcher. I got through high school and college by asking librarians, and God bless librarians, because I owe you lots of thanks for that. So we've got some folks at Baltimore Heritage. My colleague Molly Ricks and my colleague Mary Zajac are great researchers.
That's a whole different.
I'm more of a talker.
Yeah. Right. See, Matt, I'm sorry.
No, I just got a quick follow up to the question because you were talking about the tours that you do at Baltimore Heritage.
Yeah.
So we have some listener questions here too, and they're asking about published books. Dave, this is Dave. Wants to know if you have any published books. podcasts, obviously you do have podcasts. Just tell you, we're talking to Johns Hopkins from Baltimore Heritage. He has a new feature on WYPR that you can check out on Tuesdays at 4:44,
Right.
and then it goes in the podcast form on the WYPR site. And you also have an amazing YouTube channel that we're going to get into in a minute. But anyway, he wants to know if you do speaking engagements, and also asked about personal tours and discussions. But books, speaking engagements, tours.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
I will check box B and box C, but not box A. So
Right.
no books, but
Right.
love to come and join groups for talks.
Have you
And,
considered a book?
honestly, no. I mean,
No?
I feel like what I'm doing right now is taking the really hard research that other people have done
Yeah.
and then trying to get it out on the street.
Sure.
And I don't know if that's book worthy.
I don't know. You know, for you
I
break
think-
it down in the nice, concise tidbits of just packed full of good information. I think we need people like you.
Well,
And I think having that in book form would be great too.
maybe
It
audio
would.
book, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
well,
Yeah.
I think part of the charm, it's not even part of the charm. I think it is the charm of the way you're doing it, is it's kind of allowing people to take in knowledge in micro doses so that they're not overwhelmed and tune out. And that's a big problem that I think a lot of people have in education, is that so much comes at them at once. They go, I ain't dealing with none of this shit. Like, this is crazy. Do you feel like I may be accurate with that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when I took history classes, an hour of somebody just like fire hose information at you, you're
Yeah.
tuning out.
Especially
It's funny.
dry information,
Yeah.
dates.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, especially historically,
Yeah.
when they're talking about the way a current affected a navy coming up the bay.
Yeah.
You can lose your mind.
So what's kind of funny is we have a series 5-minute histories that we've been doing since COVID, and that we're almost at. We've done about 400 of them so far.
Wow.
400 different places around Baltimore, and exactly zero of those are actually 5 minutes. They're 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Oh, that's
8
beautiful,
minutes.
though.
But the funny thing is, we know that a lot of people hit stop after 5 minutes.
You know what it
So
is,
I
though?
should keep it to 5
Well,
minutes.
here's the thing, man. I think, it's like I'm learning this about podcasts. Inside of a podcast, you actually have 40 different little things that you could put out. But some people do like the deep dive. And I think historically, an 8-minute story about a particular thing, for the true historian that wants to get the full perspective, that's a great amount of time. And for the person who's just casually curious about something, they'll tune out when they've had enough.
Well-
Yet it's still, both of those things
Yeah.
serve amazing finished products.
Thank you. I mean, I think one of the things we want to do, and I'm not jokingly calling, is creating Baltimore ambassadors. And
I
so-
love this.
So if you learn a little bit about, I don't know, the shot tower, you learn
Sure.
a little bit about, Fells Point, and I walk down the street and I see you standing there pointing up at a
Yeah.
building, talking
You're
to
going to
somebody
talk to
about
me.
it.
Yeah.
I think, oh my gosh, that is fabulous.
Yeah,
that's
of
just
course.
like people who have scratched the surface, taken 8 minutes to learn about someplace,
Yeah.
and then share it. And
Well,
that's the important part, is
I love
learn
this.
it and then share it.
That's what I think is so fascinating about your YouTube channel. And I think it comes down to, different videos, different episodes are going to be more exciting to different people. For instance, I know your latest episode that is on WYPR's site right now in podcast form is duckpin bowling.
Yeah.
And I love that. I duckpin bowled when I was a kid.
Right.
It's a fascinating story.
Sure.
But there's so many different episodes that I've loved. Are there favorites that you look back on your collection now that really interested you, or you personally thought were fascinating?
That is a totally unfair question. Yeah, I mean, there's some that I think are there are a lot that I think are really great, but there's some that I learned.
Let me help you in this awkward position. I've seen a bunch, and I've never been one time disappointed. I have found every episode to be to be interesting, to be engaging, and to be worth watching. So, I mean, I don't know why you would be hesitant to pick out your favorites, it's an incredible thing that you're doing. not only from an academic standpoint for later in time periods in history, or the future rather, but also currently to help us remember why we're special and why we're living in an interesting place. So I think you're doing that.
Well, thank you. I think that's, and you're right. Different things resonate with different people, and so like if you're a railroad buff and we do a segment on railroads, wow. But if you're not a railroad buff, maybe you're kind of like, well,
this is a comedy show and it's off color sometimes, so I'm going to ask you a bad question. Have you done one on the block yet?
No, but I am going to do one on the block.
Please do.
The Gaiety Theater.
Yes.
The
oh my God.
So you just got to look above the first floor.
Correct. Correct.
You
can
look wherever you want to look.
Yeah.
I'm looking above the first floor.
But you do understand the significance of that block. Well, really, at one time was basically a little longer than what we know now.
The block was like 4 blocks, and it started out as vaudeville and burlesque, I think, and then each generation it kind of it just ratcheted up a notch.
To where it ended and literally ended it. Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun history to watch that ratcheting.
That's going to be a good one.
And it's a fun history to see the dynamic tension battle between the block and City Hall, no matter who is in City Hall.
Absolutely.
The raids that never work.
Absolutely.
The police station's right there, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything was built to try to control it, and ended up controlling a lot.
It's still there.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, man.
So Mick, I don't even know if you know this,
okay,
but one of the coolest episodes I think for us personally, if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to watch it. You did HammerJokes.
Oh, did you really?
And I don't know if you know this, but I mean, we both have a connection, but especially Mick, because he managed that club for many years.
I was there from I think it was 80.
When you say there, where is your there?
Okay, so I was where the stadiums are now, the big one. And as a young kid, man, 18, 19 till I was 25 or whatever, and it was. I mean, I haven't seen the episode, but let me ask you this. What did it mean to you after doing the episode? What did HammerJokes represent to you, and how did it tie to Baltimore in general?
So a couple of things resonated with me. One is it started in a row house at Federal Hill.
Unbelievable.
So we I think most of us have this image of HammerJokes as
the big concert hall, right?
With multiple, like crazy. But they worked their tails off to get there. They didn't just say, "Oh, let's go to this old," and do it. It was a long slog.
It was almost short of a manifest destiny kind of thing too. They just believed they could do it and just did it.
And then the other fun thing to me was how successful it was. In a genre that Baltimore wasn't really known for,
Bingo.
We weren't Los Angeles, we weren't New York, we weren't the Lower East Side, we were Baltimore, and yet we had all of these rockers dying to come to Baltimore.
Yeah,
and out of the woodwork, we had thousands of people like you who were going.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is there are some things that we've done videos on that resonate. And I cannot tell you how many people contacted us about HammerJokes with stories.
I can believe it.
Their big hair. Budweiser beer t-shirt.
Here's a story
they would always start out by saying, I can only tell you a little bit because I don't want to tell you everything.
I may be getting a little part of this story wrong, but to give you an understanding of how much beer HammerJokes sold, I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch, or the distributor that handled Anheuser-Busch.
It was the biggest on the East Coast, wasn't it?
Not only, let me tell you the full story. Came and said, we're raising the price. And he said, no, you're not. Not to me, you're not. And they said, yeah, we are.
This is Louis?
Yeah, the owner.
Yeah.
He said, well, I'm not going to sell Budweiser. And they laughed at him. What do you mean you're not? It's the biggest beer in the world. You're not going to sell it? He said, nope. And he threw it out. He would not buy it. 6 months.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong on the time. Anyway, I think the guy's name was Augustus Bush, one of the vice president, like his dad was the guy, flew to Baltimore and said, fix this now to his distributor. We were the largest non-stadium Budweiser venue.
That's incredible
on the East Coast.
I believe it though.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know how big a walk-in cooler is? Like a big, like a 10-footer. There were 2 of them filled just with Budweiser every weekend.
Wow.
It was, I can't explain it to people. I just can't explain it.
Yeah, I believe it though.
Okay, back to Baltimore. I'd like to go back to the Civil War time in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I think one of the very few things that real Baltimoreans really know the story behind, some people know that Baltimore is known as Mob Town, but they don't actually know where the name came from. And am I right that it was named during the Civil War when a mob gathered to confront Northern soldiers? Is that?
I think you got the facts right, but the term wrong.
Okay.
So,
Was it the lack of government? Isn't that what it was? It was more like the mobs took care of business instead of a local.
well, it was I believe.
Okay.
The term mob referred to election politics, and we were such a ward-run.
Yeah, the wards were huge here. Yes,
political machines.
that's where it came
and they
from.
would fight. I mean, we had political parties called the Plug Uglies.
The Plug Uglies,
yeah.
They would beat each other
Yeah.
with baseball bats
Right.
over votes.
Right.
And so the mob, I believe, refers to that. But what you talked about was what many consider the first bloodshed of the Civil War.
Correct.
Which was a group of Union troops. If you wanted to go from say New York or Philadelphia to Washington,
You had to come through,
you had to
right?
come through Baltimore, and
Right.
you had to change rail lines because
Right.
there was one line that ran from Baltimore north and another line that ran from Baltimore south.
Correct.
And to transfer, you had to walk about a mile from
Right down
Pratt Street.
Pratt. Yeah, exactly.
From President Street Station, which
Yeah.
is still there, to
Yep.
Camden Station, which is still there. And that walk of Union soldiers was the soldiers were attacked by pro-Southern Baltimoreans, and a number of people in both sides lost their lives. And that was one of the real sparks for
Yeah.
the onset of the Civil War.
And isn't there, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I don't know, but didn't Lincoln's dead body spend time in Baltimore?
Lincoln came into office through Baltimore and then left in a casket through Baltimore.
Yeah.
as well.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just, to me, DC obviously is the nucleus of the American government. That's really where we are. If we go back, Philadelphia, the argument could be made that it's there, but I'll look at it from DC's perspective. Does the proximity of Baltimore historically, did it have any pressure on DC and the national stage? Did you understand the question?
Yeah, I mean, we were the big kahuna for 100 years.
Really?
Way bigger influence than Washington. I mean, Washington, and I'm not a Washington historian. I mean, it's now the big kahuna. But
Right.
It has not always been. It was, sort of a little town where federal government did its thing, but
Right.
cities like Baltimore and Philadelphia and New York were really the where the shaping went on.
Isn't that wild?
And I've always thought, we're still we're close enough to Washington to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But we're far enough that we are totally separate. And in a lot of ways, that
Yeah.
30 miles that separates us, I mean,
Is
it's
a
like,
godsend.
yeah, yeah, Washington is
But
on Mars.
I
you
think
know,
if we're honest, throughout the beginning up until today, I think Baltimore could beat the crap out of DC in a war. Just the way I'm looking at it. Oh, Matt, do you want to do the other stuff? I just want to talk to him.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I would love
Yeah.
to just keep talking to
All
John.
right, sure, of course.
I mean, if you're cool with
Yeah.
that. John's, two guys that grew up in Baltimore and understand the charm of it and the love of it and is it unique in its love for itself from its citizens, or do most other cities you think have that?
I hear that often that in Baltimore we underappreciate ourselves, that we don't value what we have and what we do enough.
Is
So
that right?
I think we're almost, if it's a spectrum, I think we've got, certainly we have love for our city, but I hear from up and down that we're really we don't
Take it for granted almost?
No, it's like we don't give ourselves a pat on the back enough.
Well, that's
You
very
know,
true.
Like
We
other
love
cities,
being
if
an
we do
underdog.
something- Yeah, we do something good. They talk about it.
Yeah.
We do something good. It's like, well,
We probably
whatever.
screwed it up. Yeah, we probably didn't.
Yeah.
It's not going to
So,
work. It's not going to work. Yeah.
So I
Well,
think we're almost at that other end of the spectrum.
Well, let me
Wow.
ask you, John. So, I don't know if you said you grew up in St. Louis. I don't know if you still have family there, but say family comes in or friends from out of town. Where are you taking them in Baltimore to show? If you really want to show them Baltimore, where are you taking them?
So I'm the director of a nonprofit historic preservation organization, and so when I get and there's a sister organization in most major cities. So there's a Baltimore Heritage equivalent in Philadelphia.
Sure, I get it. Yeah,
in Chicago.
Yeah,
and so when I have colleagues visit from those other cities, and I can tell you where I take them around in a second, but every one of them says, "Oh my goodness, I did not know you had so much great historical stuff in Baltimore."
Is that right?
And so much still intact in Baltimore, and that's from people who are in New York who love historic places, and in San Francisco and all over. So we've got the goods. I mean, we have the goods.
Yeah.
Comparable. We can hold our head up to any city in the country for the importance of our history and what we still have standing. And so you can take them to Lovely Lane Methodist Church. Methodism in the United States, founded in Baltimore.
I did know that.
We are the mothership. Yeah. You can take them over to Fells Point and talk about shipbuilding, the War of 1812, and how, we won the war in 1776, but Baltimore basically kept us free in the War of 1812 in large part from clipper ships. And you can walk on those same Belgian block streets.
It's unreal.
That people have been walking on for 200 whatever
it's
years.
Incredible.
And I think what you can do in Baltimore that you can't necessarily do, and you can do it more in Baltimore, is you can stand there and talk about history and talk about why it is important today. And it's still there.
You can see it in real time.
You can touch it.
That's what's fascinating. Yeah. And another thing, like the parks, Patterson Park, Herring Run Park.
Yeah.
I grew up at Herring Run Park. Who was really architecturally, I don't know the right word, the layout of Baltimore. Where did that really, because there's a charming thing to look at in how it's laid out. Who was that? Who was the brainchild of that?
Well, the park's brainchild was sort of the Frederick Law Olmsted firm. They, in 1904, gave us a plan. We are, and it kind of built on, if you look at our park system, it's largely, the big parks are former country estates that have become public parks. So Patterson Park was William Patterson, Clifton Park was Johns Hopkins, Lyman Park was a couple families, including the Carrolls. Druid Hill Park was the Roger family. Leakin Park was the Winans family, and those ring the city in green space. Former country estates turned public parks, and then the Olmsted firm came in and helped us kind of try to sew them together. So if you look at it, so who shaped our city? It's somewhat the Olmsted plan. But
that was really, 1904, you said?
1904.
And I'm just curious, that was the year the Baltimore fire.
Yeah,
so does a fire have anything to do with giving up the land for those parks or anything? No?
I think that's more of a historical coincidence
than
like a driver.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we were laid out. I think there were, I forget if it was 20 plots or 40 plots by big landowners in the city. John Eager Howard, the Revolutionary War hero, whose estate went from where today's Belvedere Hotel is, ringing over to Lexington Market, down to where the convention center is, and right up into the harbor. So
that was all his property?
That was all his property.
Yeah, wow.
He was doing okay.
Herring Run Park. Do you know any of the history of that, whose land that was, or Harford Road, Chesterfield, Bel Air Road?
I think that was a series of farms turned into houses and then park over years. But it was, if you look at the history of that sort of northeast part of Baltimore, it was long ago, but not that long ago, when there were still truck farms that you could, if you were at Bel Air and Northern Parkway, you could see truck farms. Your parents probably would be. That's where we get our.
I'm not making this up to put it accurately. Like Perry Hall, where that is now, Nottingham, whatever they're calling it. Once you enter, almost when you go out of Perry Hall down Route 1 towards the Gunpowder. As a kid, if I was in a car and we made it that far, I didn't know where the hell I was anymore. I'm not making that up. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I've left everything I knew.
Yeah.
And now to see that much just wooded area
Oh
And
yeah,
with no human.
I moved to the country in 1980. I mean, to Perry Hall in 1984, and we're like, we're moving to the country.
Yeah.
And now you're crazy if you say that.
Right
I mean,
now
you know,
it's so overcrowded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's what we've got a pretty substantial Polish community, and
Absolutely.
sort of rooted in East Baltimore.
Yeah.
And
Very much in the Canton area was massive, that Polish
Yep,
community.
yep.
Yeah.
And up through, I want to say World War II, maybe even
Yeah.
a little after World War II, entire families would move in the summertime onto farms in Baltimore County to pick beans. So
To just work.
to work.
And the
but
Polish immigrants were really the ones doing that the most?
They were bean pickers, and they
Wow.
were in just north of Timonium and sort of the Green Spring Valley, but it was far enough away that they that wasn't a daily commute. That was
Right. You had to go live there for the
You
summer.
live there for the summer and like little
And now we could do it in 20 minutes.
plywood tents. Yeah, exactly. So that was a huge thing, is the Polish bean pickers leaving for the summer, then coming back to Fells Point and Canton in the fall.
You know what I always wondered, and you may not know this, I apologize, but say this is colonial or revolutionary times, and George Washington is in Baltimore, and he's got to go to New York on horse, carriage, whatever. How long did that take back then? Roughly.
Long enough. He had to spend a couple of nights. We know George Washington and Martha traveled up and down Washington Boulevard, today's Pigtown.
Wow.
That was the main route, a former Susquehannock Indian Trail from points north to Washington, D.C.
Oh, that blows my mind.
Me too,
the
man.
Indian trails became our roads.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was before,
But like
so
in
up and
terms
down.
of days, if he left on Monday from Baltimore, when would he arrive in New York City, you think?
If he traveled straight through, I'd have to say like 3 days.
Can you imagine that
Probably.
3 days to go to
I mean,
New York?
I mean, he was spending the night on Washington Boulevard in
Yeah.
Midtown, getting to because DC was
Sure.
too far. Like he wasn't going from Philadelphia to DC in a day. He was spending the night in Baltimore. So
That's
we know.
fascinating to me. It
You know-
really is.
You know what else is interesting? You mentioned Washington Boulevard,
Uh-huh.
and I know you've done at least an episode on street names in Baltimore, which I found fascinating too,
Yeah.
because you think you kind of maybe know why some street names are they're not necessarily named there. Were there street names that really surprised you in Baltimore?
Well, I mean, the big surprise is Pratt Street.
Yeah.
Right? We all
Right.
know it's going to be named for
Enoch Pratt.
right,
Right.
the guy who gave us
Yeah.
the library, gave
But no.
America the free public library
Right,
sure.
system. No. So
Wow, I never knew that till this. I was today years old,
Yeah,
man.
I know.
do you want to know who's named after?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So the lead into the Revolutionary War, right? If you remember your sort of high school history, the Stamp Act,
Of course. The T, all that. Yeah.
those taxes
Yeah.
that we didn't like.
Yep.
There were only a few people in English Parliament who stood up and said, "Hey, we think this is a really bad idea. The colonists are not going to like it, and they're going to get wicked mad. We're against the Stamp Act."
This was in London.
In London, in Parliament, I think there were 2 people in all of the House of Commons.
Wow.
And one of those was a gentleman named William Pratt. And we were so thankful that he stood up for us that a number of states sent him a thank you letter that says, "Thank you, Mr. Pratt." We were so thankful we named a street after him, but it gets better. So William Pratt, even though he's kind of the black sheep of the Parliament,
Sure.
he's a super smart guy. He's a constitutionalist. England had a constitution.
Yeah, I know they
He
did.
Stood up for the Constitution and said, "We cannot tax without representation."
Right.
That's what we're doing. So he eventually gets elevated into the House of Lords. And I don't know British
Yeah.
all that system
Right.
that well, but when you become a lord, you get a different name.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
from the Calvert family.
Yeah. That's
to
where you get them
Lord
like
Baltimore.
you get them weird. He became Lord Baltimore.
Well, no, he didn't. But what
Okay.
he did become is Lord Camden.
Mm,
Guess where
no
we
kidding.
get Camden Street, Camden Yards, Camden
Wow.
Station. Same
So
William.
Pratt and Camden were the same man.
Pretty much.
I
for
never
sure.
knew that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And again, I'm going on a deep dive here, but in the revolution, I realized where it was in the Civil War, but during the Revolution, was Baltimore pro, patriot? Were they pro colony?
I mean, not universally. We definitely had some sympathizers.
Yeah.
And
Loyalists, as they called them. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we were sending boats out to fight the British and building boats to send out to fight the British.
Is there any history of Ben Franklin being in Baltimore?
Not that I know of.
See, that's the guy I always wanted to go. That's where Ben Franklin was. Because to me, I think he's the most interesting one from the Revolution. His work in England and before the war and begging them and trying to explain what was going to happen. And then in the settling of the war, I just think him, Jefferson, and Adams are the guys. I don't know if you agree.
He might have been part of the Continental Congress that met here, but
yeah.
I don't know.
It's an amazing history.
Yeah.
And so, Matt, for you, like when we talk about this stuff, why is it important for you? Like, why does this stuff matter to you?
Baltimore history?
Yeah, like what were this conversation?
I mean, it matters to me I think on a number of levels. I mean, I think it's important, you know, when you're talking in regards to like Baltimore heritage in just preserving, you know, the history that is in Baltimore. So I think that is a big reason to do that. But, you know, there's an aspect that I'm just fascinated with it all, that it all happened here too. But I think it's important to know where we came from and where we're going. You know,
don't you think
can I share? I think the most articulate answer to that question, for me at least, came from a group of 6-year-olds. I was out.
Usually does, man. It usually does, really, at its core.
I was in a neighborhood, Lafayette Square in West Baltimore, that has gorgeous architecture. I think I was out there taking pictures. If Lafayette Square were in Paris, when we go to Paris, we'd make a point to go to Lafayette Square. It's beautiful,
right?
But it's in West Baltimore, so many of us don't go. So
sure.
We were going to lead a walking tour, and I was out there taking pictures, and I knew because we did an archaeology dig. It was a Union camp during the Civil War. President Lincoln had established, I think, 6-7 Union camps, basically to remind Baltimore and remind Maryland that we were not going to secede from the Union.
Right.
So I knew it was a Union camp. And then after the war, it became a public square was created, and then millionaires' houses were developed around it, and it had these urns on the gateways to the park. And sadly, about 6 months before I was out there, one of the urns got yanked off its pedestal. They were cast iron and probably put in the back of a truck and scrapped. And so very sad. So these kids are out there, and I was taking pictures of the houses, and the kids said, "Take a picture of us, take a picture of us." And I said, "No, go away, kids." and clearly I lost that battle. But I said, if I'm going to take a picture, go stand by one of these urns. And so they're there. And then I noticed the other one that was stolen was right across. And I just asked, I said, "Do you know what happened to that other urn?"
Yeah.
And these are 6-year-olds. And they said, "Yeah, somebody came in the middle of the night and they took it, and we're really mad, and we're gonna go bust them up. And I sort of scratched my head, and then I asked, I said, why do you care?
Yeah.
Why do these 6-year-olds care? And one of the 6-year-olds said, "I've got a picture in my house of my grandmother in white gloves and a fancy dress walking around the fountain in the middle of the square with the urns in the background." Another one said, "I've got a picture of my mom and dad on roller skates with metal wheels, right by these urns."
Yeah.
And the response, like, these kids were not considered. If I said, "Are you a historian or are you a historic preservationist?" They would have like looked at me like I don't know.
Sure.
But that answer was that that place on planet Earth made them feel special.
That's amazing.
Gave them a connection to.
That's the definition of knowing your roots, I think, and what it means to you to be where you're actually from.
Right.
For sure.
So did that piece of metal shaped into an urn, does that have huge significance in American history? No, but to those kids, that was
which then in turn though
empowerment for them, knowing and learning.
But in turn, doesn't that sort of in itself become part of American history? The way those kids feel, it's part of the American experience.
I think that's the most important part of
it.
That's is not that we go see the Liberty Bell. That's cool.
See, this is what I don't get. I don't get this. Like talking to a guy like John's, right? How do you not go into a stadium and fill it? Like, this is fascinating. Like, it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Conversation.
You're not doing speaking engagements right now, are you?
No, I speak to anybody who'll have me.
Right, sure.
Speak to anybody who'll have me over.
I just think that, like, and I love the idea of this 5-minute thing, like I said, because it's at your disposal, the viewer's disposal to learn what you want, and just having that ability in itself, to me, is preserving history.
Yeah,
we'll go look at it when we want, but when we need it, it'll be there.
I encourage people to go look at all these because it's, everything from the HammerJokes thing we just talked about to, you did the horse you came in on, history and Phil's points, which is a fascinating story.
Did you do one on Edgar Allan Poe's time in Baltimore yet?
I don't think we have, although we do.
I gave him an episode.
That one's everything about Edgar Allan Poe is complicated.
Yes, you're not kidding. Yeah. And not always historically accurate.
Oh, almost never.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like the historians created an image of him that they just went, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's all creepy and it's dark and it's cloudy and it's fun.
He might have been the first CIA agent. None of us knew it, man.
That's funny.
What would you advise a young, say, 20-year-old person who realizes they don't have enough time to devote to the history of Baltimore? How would you tell them to go about pursuing an interest of just knowing sort of a microcosm of who Baltimore or what
His
Baltimore
YouTube
is?
channel, Mick.
Yeah,
right?
no, but I mean, like, where should they be going once they're familiar with you?
Yeah, so start as locally as you can.
Close to where you
close
are.
to where you live. And
that's a great answer.
Like if you go, I go to the bar and ask the bartender, hey, how long have you been here? And if she says 10 years, say, what was it like? And start I don't know. You can go read a book. Fine, that's great. But start come on one of Baltimore Heritage's tours. Great.
Yeah, the anecdotes are what are really fascinating too, right?
But talk. Like when you're walking down the street, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to date me. And
who cares, man?
Take the little earbud thing, iPhone buds out of your ears.
Yes. And put your phone in your pocket and pay attention.
And talk to the person on the street and say, hey, I think you live there. How long have you lived there?
Yeah.
I heard that there used to be a blah, blah, blah down the street. And then that depth will start to come in of like, oh, okay.
Do you think that, I shouldn't say, do you think, as I grew up let me tell I don't know if you know the area, where Cold Spring Lane and Moravia is and Harford Road. So I grew up between those two roads, Cold Spring and Moravia.
Gotcha.
A dead center in the middle, actually. And there was an old MTA bus depot across the street when I grew up, which is now a Safeway. And they actually had to tear down that bus depot. Then they had to dig up the dirt and soil because it was so contaminated from oil and motor oil and grease and all that. Anyway, that area where I grew up, there were tons of people that lived a little further down in the city as children. So for me, adults that I met were guys that were born in, South Baltimore, Highlandtown, Canton, whatever you want to do. And they moved out a little bit to where we were. Those stories those old guys used to tell, and I'm saying old guys in 1970, these men were 70 and 80, and they would tell you about, what it used to be like. Blah, 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 blah. Is there documentation of that era of people? Did anyone get to them for the stories or is it well represented?
To my knowledge, not well represented.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some, but those, the old timers that said, Eastern Avenue was
right.
the Lithuanians and
yes.
the Poles. And my mother said, I can't go across. And
bingo.
Then you have like a Romeo and Juliet scenario.
Absolutely.
Did go across. I mean, those were very real things. And
I can remember, and this sounds horrible, and I mean it, but apparently it's a true story. During the 68 riots, basically the government housing across the street from Little Italy was right there, and they were rioting. And basically the Italians point blank told people, if you cross the street, we're shooting first. And they never came in to Little Italy during the 68 riots. Do you know about that part of Baltimore history? And have you ever discussed that element to it?
I don't know about the riots as much as I should.
It's an interesting actual fact. And I believe that the mayor at the time went to the police department and said, look, they got it handled. You just make sure that this doesn't get out of control. And apparently the black citizens in America took them serious. Like, we walk in there, we're going to get shot. And it really does throughout history. Baltimore sort of has this kind of, we'll take care of ourselves mentality. Does that show itself through its history, do you think? Not that particular incident, but maybe the concept of, we got it.
Yeah, or we're going to stand up. Like I think
Yeah.
in Baltimore we've got a really strong heritage of not just staying in your lane, not just minding your own P's and Q's, whatever the analogy is.
Yeah.
And we can talk about
Challenging the status quo.
Yeah, we can talk about the civil rights movement,
Right.
which we talked a little about. The highway, Bob Eny, who's
Yeah.
a window designer at Hutchins, decides he's going to fight
Save the Fells
mayor,
Point.
the governor,
Yeah.
Right.
the Federal Highway Administration. One guy.
Yeah.
It's a
One guy
battle.
at first, one guy. And he was like, I'm fighting.
Yeah.
I'm fighting. So I think we do have a really deep heritage of standing up. I can share one other one that's really
Yeah.
fun. Thomas Boyle. He's a ship's captain during the War of 1812, and he becomes a privateer, not a pirate. A pirate
Yeah.
is unlawful. Privateer, the government says it's okay to go and raid.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Plenty
British,
of wealthy men came out of that arrangement, by the way. Yeah.
So the British have blockaded the Chesapeake Bay. You know, the greatest naval power in the history of the world, really, has blockaded the Chesapeake Bay. Thomas Boyle in his ship called the Chasseur, which is about maybe 100 feet long. So
Right.
what is that? Maybe like 8 car lengths?
I don't even know.
something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
He said, well, if they're going to blockade the Chesapeake Bay, I'm going to go over to England and I'm going to blockade the English Isles. So he sails over to England. And rows has a guy that parks out in front of Parliament, has a guy row ashore and nails on the Lloyd's of London Insurance Company door. I, Thomas Boyle of the Chasseur, Baltimore, do hereby declare that all of the rivers and inlets and seas and waterways of the entire British Isle are under a strict siege and blockade.
That's cojones, man.
One boat, right? And so what he did though was really strategic, is because he
He got the king to turn the.
Well, he got the insurance companies to freak out that,
Right.
oh my gosh, these Americans can get through the blockade. They can sail over here.
Right.
So the insurance on just, if you were a British shipper of chairs or whatever, your insurance just went through the roof. So they sent the whole British squadron after him. He's sailing back across the Atlantic with the British in hot pursuit. Along the way, he still manages to capture something like 12 British merchant boats, take all their stuff over. He sails back through the blockade, comes into Baltimore, and he's a hero, right? This guy.
Yeah.
And we christened the Chasseur the Pride of Baltimore.
Wow.
And that's where
That's
we
the
get
pride of
that's where
Baltimore.
that name comes. So when we recreate the Pride back in the 70s, 80s for the Inner Harbor Pride 1, that we drew on that history of standing up, of crazy bravery, maybe a little too
Yeah.
A little insanity involved. Yeah.
insanity, to name our boat the Pride, and now the Pride 2. Of
That's
course.
incredible.
I mean,
yeah.
Has anyone, I think, I mean, I don't know. I'm an idea guy, Johnson. It just seems like Baltimore could use like one of those Ken Burns style 10-episode documentaries. I mean,
oh, dear Lord.
the history of Baltimore, though, and all the little tidbits are fascinating.
I think Ken Burns' father went to City College, so maybe
There you
we could
have it.
so maybe
Look
we
at
could
me.
spark an interest here.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
come down.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing, man, we're going to wrap up, but I want to tell you, man, what you're doing, I'm going to talk a little weird right now, but it is very important. And I don't know, honestly, if it will be appreciated in your lifetime, but I can promise you, I believe this, in the future, the people will look back at your work and be so thankful that you took the time to do what you're doing. I know it for a fact, because even right now, I just think about history in a way like this. I would have loved to have documented every single moment or every story, or as many as I could, about those guys sitting in Philadelphia writing the Declaration of Independence. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if we had daily news coverage with video and it archived it. It would look so, our country would look so different to us. And I think that is what's so important about what historians are doing now with the internet. It is putting it in a place, almost like AI describes things to us. How ironic. That we can always access it whenever we need it. And that's why I think why your work is so important, and maybe sadly very undervalued in your current time. But I just want you to know, I think you will be looked back upon as someone that did something great for future generations.
Thank you. Do I have time for one word? Or
Of course.
Of
No,
course.
please.
Following humbly a little bit in the footsteps of Enoch Pratt.
Without a doubt.
So before Pratt, you could get access to information if you were white and wealthy
and a man.
Right.
Yeah.
And so because you had to subscribe to a library.
Correct.
So Pratt turned that, talk about turning things on their heels and having an impact that's still being felt, but his name doesn't get enough recognition. So he gives a gift following George Peabody's idea of American philanthropy, the land of opportunity. Nothing bigger in the day than if you could get yourself to a library, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your sex, and read a book. The American dream was there if you had the wherewithal to follow it. So he made history and knowledge way more accessible.
And I think
that's what Baltimore Heritage is trying to do as well, is just make that accessible.
And I want to ask you before you leave too. I mean, how long have you been with Baltimore Heritage, first of all?
22 years.
22 years. So
yikes, I think I'm historical.
So what are some of the things that you're most proud of during your time there? And is there something you guys are passionate about right now that you're working on?
Yeah. So we've I mean, there are some buildings that we've worked on that I'm really proud that we've been able to help save and put to a good new use. The Baltimore Hebrew Orphan Asylum in West Baltimore, the nation's oldest Jewish orphanage.
Wow.
Now a health treatment center and a health clinic and a governor's office of neighborhoods is there. But I think it's really, where do I learn my history from talking to people on the street all the time.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be in a job. I think I have the best job in Baltimore. I think I have the best job.
I think you do too, and I'm pissed at you. I thought I had the best job in Baltimore until today, buddy.
I get to talk to people who know so much.
Yeah.
And
could you help us find other guests that are specifically very knowledgeable about certain things? Matt, that would be a great tool for us.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
But so I think the thing maybe I'm most proud of that we at Baltimore Heritage, and it is a we, it's not a me, it's a we, is as we've become and are growing, expanding, being a resource for people who are helping Baltimore to do that. And so, history alone isn't going to make Baltimore the greatest, we're not going to change it only by history, but history can be a hugely important factor in bringing people together, in sparking a civic pride, in motivating people to come out and help today, learn about yesterday, but help today. I mean, I think that's what I'm really proud of, is our role in working with neighbors across the city and being a resource for that.
Yeah.
You know what I think's interesting too about it, when you really study the history of America, especially, is that the wave of immigration that came here and how they assimilated into what is a new culture, basically, and philosophy of a nation. And throughout history, it's pretty obvious that since people started understanding what America was, it's the hottest spot on the globe. You know what I mean? I'm not being arrogant here, but I think for Americans that grew up in it like us, and I need to say this clearly, especially white American men who grew up in a little different America than the black and immigrant men of our age group. It's important, though, that we learn and recognize how we did assimilate with each other so that we can show future generations how we did it, and how we could look at something that came from your culture, completely not understand it, completely be freaked out by it, but with explanation and sort of display of what it is, we learn to not only accept it, to love it, and it's become something that's not theirs anymore. It's now ours. It's American.
Right. I think we need to definitely learn what we did, but also how we didn't assimilate at times.
Well, that's important too.
Like, we need to have it all out there, not just
Agreed.
Part of it out there. And,
yeah.
And I do feel people are going to look back on this moment in time and recognize some good things that are happening, but also think, what were they thinking?
Of course.
How like that was a little detour in the American
Well,
history.
Human
And I
nature
think-
is full of a bunch of exits and enter ramps.
Yep,
You know
yep,
what I mean?
Absolutely. But I do, obviously a history champion, but I think we got to get it out there. We got to talk about it. And then it becomes our history.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly is
Right.
ours.
And
not yours and mine or theirs and yours.
I think
ours.
Europe is a little ahead of us on that in some ways, especially when I'm not talking about England, but when you get into countries like, especially Italy, which Rome had so much influence over, which people don't realize, a lot of Romans were different nationalities. You were conquered by Rome, but you were Turkish, you were whatever, and Rome became the culture that we all started to understand. It was the original sort of idea of what America's trying to be, and we tried to learn from Rome what wasn't good about it. We failed still in some of those areas, but do you see it in that light?
Yeah, I mean, that is in my view, that's the American dream and the American concept. Is we are taking lots of different people, cultures, thoughts, ideas, and that's the core of America. It
Sounds very AI, doesn't it? You take all these ideas, and you put them together and know everything, and then you got to figure out, all right, now how do we do good with all this information? Right?
That bingo.
That's the dilemma. Well, I never thought I would say this in my life. Johns Hopkins, what a pleasure speaking to you.
I had fun. Thanks for the invitation.
Hey, man, this was awesome. I hope you would like to do it again.
Sure.
We could talk about a million things. One more time at the end here, and Matt will do it, really. How do people find out and get a hold of you? You want to do it, Matt?
Well, sure. Yeah. So you've got Baltimore Heritage, of course. We've got the website link there, and it's a nonprofit. So I'm sure you guys are accepting donations. You guys do fundraisers and things, anything like that coming up, or
all of the above.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
It's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Just say that word. We know what it
anything
means.
coming up specifically that people can attend for you guys?
We've got some. We do tours, walking tours throughout the year. So come on out this summer. Last summer we started a boat tour, Inner Harbor by boat, and we're going to expand that this summer.
Dude, I'm on that.
I know.
I'm on that.
It's if you have not yet been out on Baltimore's harbor, come out, and here's a pledge to anybody who's watching or listening.
Yeah.
If you come out on our Baltimore by boat tour and you don't come back ashore with a better appreciation of Baltimore, I will buy you a sandwich. There it is.
What's the
Can
best?
I pick the sandwich in the place we get it from?
It is maybe not prime rib, but
What's the vessel you guys go out on?
water taxi.
Water taxi.
Nice.
35 people were out in the water.
How long's the tour roughly?
75 minutes. So
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then so come on out. Would love to have you. And we've got a beautiful city, and we've got a city that has shaped the nation.
That's amazing.
Then, of course, WYPR, you can get your feature on there. That is Tuesdays at 4:44, right?
That's right.
And then I highly recommend go right now and subscribe to your YouTube channel, which we have linked in our description.
Thank you.
As well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And learn something and share it.
For sure. Right.
That's the key to everything, man. You got to share it.
Yeah.
That's it. Johns, thank you so much, man. What an honor and a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll be back. Now, listen, Matt and I are off tomorrow and Friday. We will be back Monday. But over the weekend, you might get an update of what's happening, and we'll talk about it. And it's all good, we promise. And thank you, everyone. And thank you to Johns Hopkins for one of my favorite episodes so far.
Thank you, Johns.
This was awesome, man.